everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are finishing my yellow ball gown project, which if you have seen the other two videos on this project, we're pretty close to being done. That said, what we do have left is really time consuming. So I'm going to just kind of jump right in where I left off in the last video. If you have not seen that last video, I highly recommend checking that out first. I will link that right up here, and also both videos are down below in the description. But the first thing that I need to do is try everything on again, specifically the skirt, because I need to figure out how long the ruffle needs to be that goes around the bottom of the skirt. I need to figure out like how deep that needs to be to the hem from the scalloped portion of the skirt. So there's really no way to do that without trying it on. But it's going to be really hard to do even with trying it on, because I somehow have to measure it on myself in a giant elliptical hoop skirt where you can't really get to the back. So I'm going to attempt it while I have it on. And if all else fails, maybe I'll have to put it on the dress form. I just know that like the dress form, even if I set the waist exactly where my waist is, the way that a cage crinoline, and specifically an elliptical cage crinoline, sits on the dress form versus how it sits on me, it's different because, you know, I'm shaped differently. And an elliptical cage crinoline, what happens is it basically has a little pillow that goes in the back underneath the cage part, and that rests kind of like above your butt, and also it has little strings that like kind of tie across your butt, and so it's going to sit differently on me than it will on a dress form. So I'm going to put it on. I am also hopefully going to put the bodice back on. No, I do not have the proper color of lacing ribbon yet. I'm going to hope that Michael's has it, because I tried ordering some from Amazon and it was really crappy ribbon. And I don't know where to get ribbon anymore. So joy. Yeah, so I'm going to lace myself back up with the green ribbon in the bodice, but I'm going to do the skirt first. The bodice, really, I want to check to see if the drawstring that I've put into the neckline has helped to ease the kind of like excess fabric, for lack of a better term, that was going on in the back of the shoulders, and to kind of just help bring that together. And then I also haven't had the bodice on since I've had the sleeves on, so that should be fun. So let's go ahead and get all kitted up and put all of that on and see what all we need to do with that skirt ruffle, and if there's anything left to do with the bodice. Skirt is on, and my plan is to literally just like take a tape measure and basically just drop it down to pretty much the floor, almost the floor, from like the high points, and see what that is both in the front and in the back. I'm hoping that it's the same all the way around, because ideally these should be the same, but I feel like they're longer in the back, which is not necessarily the worst thing. Yes, this is a ball. Yes, we'll be dancing, but also yes, skirts did have a sweep. You have such a hoop that, like, I mean, it's the partner's job to not step on it, but yeah, women's skirts, even for dancing, did have a sweep in this era, and so I don't want a big one, but I want maybe, you know, an inch or so. So hopefully we'll be pretty close, but I basically need to know the distance from about like probably an inch or so above the point up down to nearly the ground, like just off the ground, like about where the tape measure is there. And then of course add enough for a hem, and that's how much I need for my height of my ruffles. Right now it still feels like it's way too much skirt fabric, and it's like, you know, overlapping itself and you're not seeing the scallops, but maybe once I add the ruffle and the trim, it will hold itself out just a little bit more, hopefully. So here's the problem. I have measured these first few, and they are all 13 inches between the top point and where I want the bottom of the hem. But when we are talking about the back, I can't get it back there. Even if I could get it back there, I can't see it. So I am going to make it 13 inches plus hem plus the little bit of overlap, which is like 1 inch. And I'm just gonna hope that that's the right height for the back and it doesn't look oddly short, because I can't measure it. So I didn't film the getting into the bodice for the last video, and I kind of felt like you guys were missing out on that. So I'm going to put this on, show you how I'm putting this on. I feel like I'm actually doing it differently now than I did last time, because Part of me kind of thinks that I laced it up on myself and then turned it around. I've already put in most of the laces, but my ribbon was not long enough to get down to the bottom eyelets. But basically how we start this is I've already used my bodkin to put the ribbon through the eyelets. I believe I have them spaced far enough where I can get this on and just like put it over my head and get through it, except that the boning is getting caught. Okay, so I put it on backwards, and then I can probably put the bodkin back on here because this ribbon is really hard to get through the eyelets otherwise. But I'm going to kind of tighten it up as much as I think that I can while still being able to get this around myself. Spiral lacing is so annoying. For those of you who actually prefer spiral lacing, please comment down below why. Why do you prefer spiral lacing? Because I honestly don't know. I mean, this would be just as difficult to like put on initially, even if it was not spiral laced. This is my bodkin, by the way. In this case, it's like a really large yarn needle. I do use a regular bodkin for other things, like for threading the ties through the neckline channel, for example. That I used a regular bodkin. But yeah, I want to know why you prefer spiral lacing if you do, or if you are in my camp of hating spiral lacing. I want to know your thoughts as well. And yeah, just let me know your opinions on that, because I think spiral lacing is silly. Okay, so we're through all of the eyelets now, which means we can lose the bodkin, and hopefully we can turn this around and put my arms in it. Hopefully I didn't do it up too tightly where I can't get to that. Okay, we are in. It's good. And now we need to do up all of the rest of this. I'm hoping that for the like Port Townsend itself that I will have someone who can assist me. I do have a roommate. In fact, Daisy Victoria is hopefully going to be my roommate, so hopefully she won't mind helping me with all of this back lacing. You know, I wanted to film this for you, but I think I need to do this in the mirror because I can't tell. Like, I know that stuff is loose up here, but I can't tell which strings are loose. So, oh wait, did we get it? Basically, this is how it works, but I think I need to do this in the mirror and not show you guys. So I will come back and show you what it looks like once it's done. And I guess I should say that the reason why I feel that this needs to be done in the mirror is because then I can see where it is like long and loose and where the next one is and which side is the one to pull to get it to, you know, go further down. And I can't do that without the mirror. So yeah, I'm going back to the mirror. I am all laced up in the back and the sleeves are looking very cute, but at this point the shoulders are obviously still quite gappy. So let's see if our drawstring works and doesn't look like I have a mega drawstring neckline, because that would be the other, you know, kind of issue there. If it looks really like, oh, she's wearing sweatpants around her neck. I know it's not going to look like sweatpants, but there we go. I can feel that the shoulders are nice and fitted now. So I can't tell what they look like in the tiny little monitor here, but I'm gonna go look in the mirror. You get to see this first. Hopefully they look good. They feel so much better. So hopefully this drawstring thing worked. It's definitely a little bit puckery, but I don't think it's enough that it's gonna bother me, particularly because I can't see it unless I'm like looking in a mirror at it. I literally can't even turn my head that far. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna bother me. What is bothering me, and I don't know if I want to fix it, but I probably should, is that these cuffs are actually way too big somehow. And so because of that, they are sinking down my arm and they're not staying up in place where they're meant to. In fact, this is probably, it's over an inch too big on this side and maybe under an inch on this side, but like probably 0.75 of an inch. So yeah, I probably should, because yeah, it's looking pretty droopy down there. I want them honestly to be up like that. So I think I need to fix that, unfortunately. It's not too bad, it's just like redoing the cuffs. That's annoying, but you know, it's a thing we have to do. I also still feel like this is poofing just a little bit. I did take it in since the last time that I put this on, but clearly I don't think I took it in quite enough. So I can still get to the seam, luckily. So I'm just gonna take that little bit in a little bit further. Luckily it's not where the neckline is, it's below. It's like this little inch right here. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, I'm gonna fix that, probably fix those sleeves, but this looks very cute. And now I know how long the ruffle needs to be. I still have to determine how dense I want the ruffle to be because my skirt is already so full. I don't think I want to do quite as full of a ruffle. So I'm going back and forth kind of between whether I want to do like a 1.5 times my skirt circumference ruffle, maybe a 2 times. So I'm going to like cut out enough of the fabric, probably rip, to be honest, enough of the fabric to do a 1.5 times ruffle and start to put some of that together and kind of like probably pin it in place on the dress form to see what that looks like. My plan with the ruffle, by the way, even though this is a slight risk in the back because I don't really know how long the ruffle needs to be, is actually just to hem it while it is flat. So the entire thing is going to get the same hem and it's going to be just like a little narrow hem. Yes, I am going to do it by machine because when you're talking about ruffles and the very bottom of a skirt, I feel like if someone is looking at that and has a problem with you doing a machine hem, that's their problem. That's not your problem. So like do your hand hems, you know, for a nice deep hem where it's going to look really ugly, to be honest, if you are, you know, doing a machine inch hem on like a 3-inch deep thick hem down at the bottom of like a plain skirt. But hemming a ruffle, just save yourself and do it by machine unless you really, really care about doing it by hand. But yeah, I'm going to do the hem first and then gather it up and then like pin it and sew it in place. That's how that's gonna work. So yeah, I'm going to, I guess, get out of this now, fix that little bit. I might put off fixing the sleeves till a little bit later, but I am gonna mark how much they need to come in, and I'm gonna start working on the ruffle. So I am honestly anticipating that I'm gonna use up like a ton of this fabric, but let's go ahead, rip some strips. I've got 2 strips of 12 inches wide to rip. Those are for the butt bow, and those are going to be folded in half with the edges sewn, you know, right sides together, both sides are right side, but sewn and then turned right side out. And then one's kind of going to be the upper portion and then the other, like the rest of it's going to be the tail. There's going to be 2 of those together to make the bow. Hopefully that's enough. So there's our first one here. And then I'm going to rip 15-inch strips, and that will allow for having 1 inch overlap behind the top of the scallop, plus about 1 inch to turn as a hem, which is a little bit wider than I need. I really should go for like 3/4 inches, but I just want that little extra bit in case the back isn't quite long enough. I'll have that extra 1/4 inch to play with. And I don't know how many of those I need to rip because I measured somewhere the circumference of my skirt and I wrote it down somewhere and I can't find where I wrote it down. So I have to remeasure that and then go with the 1.5 times that, and that's how many I'm going to do to begin with. And then we'll see if I need to make more ruffle as well. So I have 7 panels of the ruffle piece all put together right now and hemmed, and I'm in the process of doing the gathering and trying to figure out how gathered I want it compared to the skirt. And sorry, but this is as far away as I can get from the skirt because it takes up so much room in my room. So right now what you're looking at is this center section is actually not gathered at all. That is completely flat. This section over here is 1 panel to 1 panel. So that is actually a little bit more than a 1.5 gather. I didn't do the math, but basically there's 9 panels of the skirt, and then there are 7 right now panels of this, and the panels of the skirt are about 30 inches, give or take an inch or so wide, whereas this is 54 inches. So there you go. There's your math. It's 54 to 30. And I don't like it. I think it looks super, super messy. So obviously that is more gather than I had intended to do. I think I'm going to take that part out, try and see what just 1.5 looks like, see if that's any better. But I'm not hating this, which is literally 1-to-1. It is literally flat. There's no gathering at all in that right now. So yeah, that could be an option. I don't think that's an option. It doesn't look good. So we'll do a little tweaking and see what works best. So I reset this section in at 1.5 and I like it even less. This is still the flat section here. There's a little area in between that has like extra. Frankly, I think that looks better. As you can see, I did also kind of pin the trim on top, which I'm now regretting doing because I want to keep the trim on there and try different like gathering, you know, ratios, because I actually like what I had on there before better. And I'm almost wondering maybe I should look at a 2-to-1, but naturally the trim is now pinned through the ruffle. So I'm going to have to reset that and look at what a 2-to-1 looks like. But yeah, I'm not liking that. I'm more like that section right in the middle where there's a lot. To be clear, I do prefer the flat to the not quite flat, like to the 1.5. I feel like 1.5 looks almost flat, so it looks almost accidentally not flat, whereas that looks at least a little bit more purposeful, but I'm not really a big fan of that one either. This is the 2-to-1 ratio and it definitely looks a lot better. So I guess I have more of the gold panels to cut out because I need to get a few more so that I can get around with a 2-to-1 ratio. So let's talk about how this ruffling is going here. So I put together the whole ruffle end to end, so it's now in one giant circle all the way around. Obviously you have to be really careful, make sure that everything is right sides together and put it together correctly. Then I ran gathering stitches, 2 rows of gathering stitches up here at the top. And I also decided, let's go ahead, add one other stitch, gathering stitch here, just like kind of blindly doing a really big curve across each section, because I did section each one out. There's markers where the middle point is and also where the quarter points are. I have not been using those to pin this on. I have been using the middle point. So this one though, it's just totally eyeballed, and ideally it would have lined up with like where the piping is on the other side over here. But basically it's just helping to kind of take those gathers and gather them together approximately where the piping is. It would have been pretty difficult to like literally measure that out when everything's getting gathered up to it. So that's why I just eyeballed it, didn't even draw it out, just like went on my machine, did big old curves and just went for it. And I only did one because I don't want the stitches to show, because I know that some of this is going to wind up below the piping line. So I'm finding that it's like different all over, depending on like this one is different from this one, for example. So like this one, there was a good chunk that was below the piping. Like I think I went too low in the middle. Whereas this one seems to be pretty much all above the piping, which is nice. So who knows? But I'm tightening that up and I'm going across and I'm pinning the top in place. Now, I was hoping to not have to do any hand sewing on this, but frankly, I'm probably going to have to hand sew this top section, particularly in the middle here, because like I'm going to have another row of stitching here where the piping is, which in this one, it's literally right under. I mean, I haven't pulled this taut yet, but the piping is literally right under my finger right now, which is, you know, where the gathering is. But I'm going to have then the trim applied on the outside about like here. So there's not going to be anything holding this portion up, which is why I'm going to need to hand whip it. I'm going to whip stitch it just to the lining, not to the exterior, so it doesn't show at all. But yeah, that's how this is going. I'm using a whole bunch of pins. This is the third section that I'm working on so far. I've already pulled up the gathers on all the other sections, so it's making it much easier to just kind of go across and pin that part, then kind of smooth this down, pull everything taut, and then go around and pin the bottom part, trying to make sure that the pin heads won't wind up under the actual piping. So a lot of that to do. I'm going to do basically as many sections as I have pins left for, so probably one more section, and then I will sew those sections on and maybe even stop to do the hand whip stitching on top. I'm not sure yet, but at the very least I'll be able to remove these pins and move them on to the next sections, because I'm not going to remove these pins until I actually do the hand sewing. And to be honest, I'm tempted to try this on again over everything before I put the trim on and before I do any hand sewing, just so I can make sure that it's not like wrong, basically, before having to take even more out in case it is wrong. The ruffle is all attached at this point. It is not brushing the floor, so I'm hopeful that it won't be too long, but I'm going to try it on anyway. It's obviously also only, hi Maisie, attached where the piping is. Okay, Maisie's going to just sit right in front of it. It's only attached where the piping is. I haven't done the rest of the hand sewing up the top, so you are seeing kind of the bunchiness from where it is pinned up here. Yes, hi. And so the next thing is to try it on. One thing that I am appreciating is how much it is kind of holding out the scallops. I feel like the scallops are taking up a lot more width. This skirt is humongous, it really is. I have also taken in the sleeve cuffs here, so that's been fixed, and I took in that little spot that was bumping here in the center, so everything on the bodice should be done at this point. So let's go ahead and try on the skirt again and see if we're good to add the trim. Well, the skirt is absolutely enormous, but amazingly, it's off the floor. I'm honestly surprised and pleasantly so, because that's great. I love it. So now I can put the ruffled trim over the edge of the scallops, hi Cookie, and then hand sew the top where it's all pinned in place, and then do the butt bow, and then maybe do the rosettes. Still haven't decided on those. I'll talk more on that in a bit. So of course I have all of my ruched trim sewn or pinned on at this point, and I lost trim chicken. That is the extent. That is what I'm short. So I need about 60 or so inches. I think it's 64 inches more of this trim, according to like the ratio approximately that I've been using. I've been eyeballing all of this, by the way, just kind of zhuzhing it as I go. But it does seem like one full width of the fabric turns out to be about 25.5 inches of trim. So yeah, I need a little bit more, probably 2 more small strips, and I will ruche those up and sew that on as well, and then all of the trim will be done. The last bit of trim is now on, so now I'm going to do huge whip stitches on the inside of this. This, by the way, is what the inside looks like, though you're looking at it upside down because this is the top over here. So I have this all pinned in place. You can see the rows of stitching going across. This is from the trim. This is where it is stitched down with the piping, and then this part is still the gathering. In a lot of places, I have taken the gathering stitches out. I haven't done this one yet. But basically I'm taking it out anytime that it is lower than the piping. I'm just leaving it in for like up here where it is above the piping and we don't see it. But yeah, I'm going around and taking that out. So yeah, giant whip stitches just to kind of catch this to the lining right here. And then this basically skirt will be done. Now I had originally intended on putting like silk roses, like rosettes. Really, I was going to use fake roses, like pre-made roses, here at the bodice, and then every time that the skirt scallops up, I was going to put like 3 rosettes there as well. And I actually bought last week on Amazon, I bought 2 different types of flowers, one that was roses, one that was carnations, just to see what they would look like. And they were completely the wrong color. They just did not work at all. And the carnations also just looked really messy. So if I have time before the Victorian Festival, I am going to make fake roses, like out of strips of silk, basically. They're not really going to be roses, they're just going to be fake flowers. I have a little one kind of mocked up here, so I did do the scalloped rotary cutter on both sides here. Then I've run gathering stitches along here, just 2 gathering stitches. And what I've done is I've just pulled up the gathering stitches, and when you pull it up really tightly, if you were to do like a few whip stitches across, you would wind up with a little, really it looks more like a carnation, but a little flower here. So if I have time, I will be doing this, but if I'm going to do 3 at each of the little pickup sections plus like 3 right here, that's 30 roses. I don't know if I'm going to have time for that because I am still intending to make a ball gown bodice to go with the plaid skirt from the day dress outfit that I just recently finished. So that has to happen first. That's a priority. And what is left to do on this that is more of the priority is the stitching of the inside of the skirt. And also I do need to hand whip stitch together the components of the bow. I realized I didn't talk about this at all, but basically this is like 2 and almost a half widths of the fabric that were 12 inches wide, and they are stitched end to end and basically turned into a long tube. I did turn it through the middle. If you have a tube that's like really, really long, especially one that is wide enough where you can reach your hand into it, I do recommend that because it's much easier than turning like this entire length through one end, particularly because I wanted the ends sealed off. Again, if I have time, I'm thinking of adding maybe like some tassels or something to the end of this just to zhuzh it up a little bit. This is kind of the middle section here. So really what I need to do here is just, you know, loop my bow and sew the middle section around it, and then most likely attach it to the center back of the bodice. I haven't 100% decided if I want to like permanently attach it or if I want it to be hooked or snapped on in any sort of way. So one of those is gonna happen. I'm not sure yet, but basically that's the bow. I'm going to wait until I have the skirt basically finished and can put it on the form and just kind of double check the dimensions of the bow before I stitch this together. So I think that's everything that remains on this skirt. I was kind of hoping to do a Garibaldi blouse project to go with this as well for like turning the ball gown bodice kind of into more of a day look. That's not happening. Mostly because I haven't ordered the fabric for it, and at this point we are less than a week away from the Victorian Festival, and in having to order fabric, none of it's going to get here in time for that to happen. And again, because I'm making the ball gown bodice for the plaid, I don't think that I have time for that anyway. This ruffle has just taken so much longer than I anticipated. It's also taken a lot more fabric than I anticipated. I think that I mentioned at the beginning of this that I had about like 5.5 or a little over 5.5 yards of the gold fabric left, which I thought, you know, I was going to use like 2 to 3 yards of maybe. I've basically used all of it. The largest piece that I have left of the gold is this right here, which you can see doesn't even run all the way across the width of the fabric at all. This is the bias up here. That's the width down at the bottom. So yeah, that, and then I've also got this, which you can tell is where I've been cutting my strips out of. And obviously I have not cut most of the strips to do the rosettes either, so that will come out of this. So that's how much fabric that basically this ruffle has taken up. I'm like a little flabbergasted, I have to admit. And I know that my skirt is honestly probably a little bit voluminous even for this era because I didn't quite calculate it with the over part with the scallops. I should have made that a little bit smaller and then had the ruffle. I mean, not by a ton. Like, frankly, I think what I've achieved here is actually kind of the proportionate look of the fashion plates of the era, which is really funny because some of you were commenting like on Instagram and stuff about how the fashion plates, it never seems to be possible to achieve that proportion. And I feel like this is the closest maybe that I have ever come to achieving it. Like my giant turquoise ball gown, this one right here that I made ages and ages ago, that came awfully close, but that was also a court gown. But I feel like this cupcake of a gown is honestly even closer, which is exciting and also scary because I don't know how I'm gonna get to the ball because my hotel is not within walking distance of this ball. I have to get myself there. I don't know how I'm gonna do that because I don't really think that I can even like wear this and then put a hoop on in the parking lot because the petticoats and stuff are too heavy. Like they require the hoop. Plus they'd totally drag on the ground if that was the thing. So this is gonna be interesting. I'm not sure how it's gonna be achieved. We're gonna see. It's a very short drive from one to the other. It's under 5 minutes, but it is like a 5-minute drive. It is not walkable. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I'm gonna go hand sew the inside of this dress right now. So now that the gown itself is done, I'm going to make a little frothy head dress thing, kind of akin to one of these little lacy guys. And you'll see this next week as well, because I'm doing something really similar for the other dress. But basically I'm taking the scraps of stuff, like the leftover trim from the neckline. This is also the trim from the neckline. This is a different lace because I don't have any more of the 3-tiered lace, but this really long lace works well for this sort of headdress. And I am going to be combining these all together together, probably, hopefully with some of like the pinked rosettes and also pinked ribbon hanging down, and I'm going to make a little headpiece. So I'm going to use this ribbon as a base just because these trims are so narrow and they need something to like attach to. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to measure out just a small length of this ribbon, probably about like that much, kind of goes around the back of the head, and I am going to then apply this lace to the very top edge of the ribbon. So it'll be right up at the top and you won't see the ribbon underneath. And then I'm going to apply this trim below. Actually, I'll probably apply this trim last, to be honest, because the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gather this up and apply this to the very bottom of the ribbon. And that way I can apply this on top. It'll cover the joins of everything. And then I'll add the little decorations on the side and we'll have a little headpiece. Since it is 11 p.m. the night before I am leaving for Port Townsend, like everything's packed, I'm not going to have enough time to do all the rosettes on the skirt. I think I like that on the bodice. This is 3. So this one is slightly smaller. These two are 18.5 inches long. Actually, come to think of it, one of these other ones is also slightly shorter, and I don't know which one it is anymore, but there's one that has a little seam in it and that one wound up a little shorter. But yeah, so this one's a little smaller. I don't know, is it like overwhelming? That's my only wonder of like, is that too much? I think I like it. I also made 2 rosettes to go on either side of the little hair piece here. I guess this is actually the other one that's slightly smaller. I felt like it was a really good match for this one though right here. So this is my other one that I have made, but I feel like these two are a better match. I don't know. Maybe those two. Anyway, we're going to put those on the sides here, and then I'm going to cut another strip of this, 2 strips, that's just going to hang down like ribbons, and it's just going to have the pinked edges, and then that will be that little hair piece done. I was playing around with the rosettes, and actually this is just one rosette that's kind of been fanned out a little bit, and I feel like that looks way better. So I think I'm gonna go with the one. Maybe I'll put a few of the other ones that I made and try to fan them out a little and kind of put them on the front of the skirt where I had intended. I think that would give me like a couple to play with. So I actually wound up safety pinning on my rosettes. I did 5 total. There's the 2 that are on the little hairpiece, the one in the front of the bodice, and then I did do 2 for the very front little pickups of the skirt, and that's it. I just didn't have time to do more. I didn't even have time to sew them on. Those are safety pinned. And right now I was supposed to have left at least 10 minutes ago, and I still have to vacuum the floor and leave some notes for my house sitter. But yeah, let's go ahead and go to the reveal though of this whole project, where I will be in Port Townsend wearing my new yellow gingham ball gown. I love this dress though. I can't wait to wear this again. I think it looks so cute. Like it's nice. Well, it is now a couple of days later and I have just gotten home from the Victorian Festival. I forgot to film a complete outro to this project while I was there and dressed in it, but I really love this ball gown. I would say that it's probably like up there with one of my favorite projects that I've made in the last few years, to be honest. I had a really wonderful time wearing it. It just like was very joyful to wear, so it was really wonderful, and I'm glad that that is how this project turned out. Definitely the ruffle took me way longer than I had anticipated to add. Like I thought it was going to be like one more day to this project, and that's why I thought maybe I would also make a Garibaldi blouse. As it turns out, I didn't even get into Port Townsend early enough to wear day wear that day. It was like a struggle to get dressed and take some pictures and get to the ball. Not in time because we definitely got there late, but yeah, I had a really nice time wearing that dress and I'm excited to wear it again. Not sure when will be the next time that I wear it, but I will definitely be wearing this one again because I love it. So that is going to be it for me on this video and on this project. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean and Kim. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!